I can say that this might be the best 4 years of my life, in a sense that it's a daily challenge that whatever you think you are, whatever you think you can do, every single day you find out that you can do more. You are better than what you thought. And I think this is one of the most exciting things that I experience in the special forces. If you want to be a high performer, your technical knowledge and your ability to execute the technical part of your performance have to be in the highest level. It doesn't matter if you are an engineer, cybersecurity, HR, you need to take certain management decisions, bank-related, stock market, or IPL player in India, cricketer. Your technique, the level of your skill have to be at the highest level for the one simple reason.
Welcome to Inspire Someone Today podcast, a show where we dive into the stories and insights that has the power to create ripples of inspiration in your life. I'm your host Srikanth, and I'm thrilled to be with you on this journey of inspiration. Hey, my dear listeners, welcome back. Yet another episode, yet another guest. Joining us today is a very, very special guest. Somebody who specializes in the field of performance and health intelligence. He's a co-founder of Behavioral Foresight, a company that integrates advanced technology with ancient wisdom to enhance health, wellness, and performance. More importantly, he has worked with Israeli Special Forces. He comes from a family of Olympians. And for all the cricket lovers out there, he is a chief mental performance coach for the IPL team Rajasthan Royals. It's an absolute joy to have Mon Balkman on this episode of Inspire Someone Today. Mon, lovely to have you on the show.
Hello, Srikanth. Thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure.
I'm so excited and have so much to ask you. To start with, you're someone who felt bored staying at the same place and decided to come over to India and have made India home for the last 7 years.
Yes.
How did that thought process happen?
I will start from almost the beginning. From a very young age, the age of 6, I started training in fencing, and quite early I took it professionally. So all my childhood until the age of 18, I was in one place doing the same thing. Although I had the luxury to travel the world and represent Israel as part of the national team. And it was very, one place, and I could tell you 5 years from a single day, what will happen, where will I be, and what will I do. Israel military is compulsory, and I needed to choose if I'm staying at my profession as an athlete and joining the military partially, or I'm taking more responsibility and taking more forward position in the military. Eventually, thanks to my parents, I decided to do something more relevant for the country. And almost in less than a week, I gave up 12 years of training and, dreams reaching to the Olympics. And I would say was blessed and lucky enough to reach to get qualified and selected to the Israeli Special Forces as part of the search and rescue unit. Where over there, all my life changed, because from being so organized, knowing everything, what's going to happen, how it will happen, in one day I put uniform and I had no clue anymore what's going to happen to me for the next 4 years. Every day you wake up in the morning or in the middle of the night and you keep on going. Interestingly, I got addicted to that. I really enjoyed, living this kind of life that you're constantly looking for new things to do and challenge myself, pushing myself to edges, reaching to comfort zones, and then try to look beyond. So 2016, after working with the Israeli Olympic Federation, preparing athletes for the Rio Olympic Games, I decided that it's time for me to push it one more time. And I just left everything behind and decided that India is my next destination.
Oh, what a story out there, Mon. And you didn't just join the Israeli forces, you joined the Israeli special forces. That's not something that everybody kind of will walk into. What was your experience like being part of such an illustrative regiment, and what was the challenges and what were your leadership lessons being part of the special forces?
Interestingly, I can say that this might be the best 4 years of my life, in a sense that it's a daily challenge that whatever you think you are, whatever you think you can do, every single day you find out that you can do more. You are better than what you thought. And I think this is one of the most exciting things that I experience in the special forces, from the physical level, the mental level, cognition and ability to improvise, creativity. And eventually for us, the end of the day, we were rescuing people and saving lives. So, we had a really high reward for pushing ourselves. So even from the ethics and the moral behind it, if I push myself and if I'm overcoming something between me and myself, this will be my X factor to save someone else's life. And very interestingly, my first operation was exactly that. We needed to rescue a person that was in a hill with a very steep downhill. And I needed to carry something like a 60 to 70 kilo bag and be able to run and climb all of it as fast as I can. So the whole team have equipment to be able to manage the operation. And the initial thought, leaving the helicopters and putting the bag, I was like, how will I do it? But this is exactly where training came, and it was like, I just do it. I think less and just do. And obviously all worked well. So I think this is for me the best experiences from those days, that you constantly on the edge, and then you figure out that it's actually not your edge and you have more.
It will prepare you to kind of push the boundaries.
Exactly. I'm just adding that later on, and in the kind practices, I'm using this kind of method to work with our people. How can we push them, and then they recognize that they can actually do much more than they thought they can.
Yeah. So before we get into that point, you also mentioned about a conversation that you had with your Olympian dad on the decision that you had to make, either to continue your journey in fencing or to join the armed forces. For the benefit of our listeners, what was that conversation like, and how was that game changing for you?
In Israel, it's a big junction. For the rest of the world, this is a transition from high school to, the first degree, which is a big decision to make. For us, we are going for another bubble, which called military. And I sat with my dad. I actually got a letter asking me to come for the trials for the special forces. And I wanted to decline, leave it and not participate. And I think the conversation started from that point. And he mostly shared his experiences because he was a professional athlete. In the military, he served as a sailing instructor, which allowed him to participate professionally as a sailor. And he continued his career also, of course, after the military. And he just, shared how did it turn out for him. And although we were in two different sports, most of us picked, slightly niche sports. And I think the moment that changed everything, that I understood that, if I will keep on pursuing only the sport, I'm doing it only for myself. And eventually, because it's a niche sport, it will be also very difficult, to influence others or to create any impact. But if I join the special forces, I'm kind of, giving my ego away and willing to do things for others. And I think this is the moment that I said, let me go for that.
Great. And fast forward now, you are working with so many athletes, so many high-performing individuals to challenge them from their status quo and achieve what they had not thought of. Before we get to that particular point, a few episodes back, we had your good friend on the show, John Gloucester, and he mentioned a very interesting comparison between the athlete and the corporate athlete. Since this show is all about the corporate citizens, the corporate athletes, listening and helping them to get better. And in the area of work that you do, is the intersection of managing burnout and the intersection of performance and stress. If I were to ask you something around this, stress can both hinder and enhance performance. How can one work with good stress? And what are the things one can do to avoid bad stress?
So I will start with a statement that in the corporate world, we need to perform every day. In the sports world, you perform once in a while, once a week, once in 2 weeks. Maybe like a cricketer in the IPL season, they will have 2 matches a week. But in the corporate world, and especially in the high level management, your decisions are daily and your performance count every day. And it's not just the statistics that later on will, sum up to zero because you start a new match or you start a new competition. Your decision from 3 months is still in play, even 3 months later, 6 months later, and the ball is keep on rolling. So to some extent, I see that there is much more pressure or continuous pressure on corporate world and the high executive. Where we are doing the method that we are trying to bring into that world is the economy of behavior. In simple words, we making you a banker. You own a bank of your mental capital. You can choose how much to tax yourself, and as more you react with heavy emotions like anger, frustrations, irritations, you are willing to pay heavy taxes. As more you are able to neutralize yourself and choose efficient action plan, it will be like, hitting on the right stock market that, the Nvidia nowadays that you got your 300, 400, maybe 1000%, but you can do it and you are not dependent on anyone. So through this method, people understand that there's a constant mental capital that keep on moving. And if we are able to be more economical, you're able to maintain your performance consistent and high.
Now, how do one identify the usage of their mental capital? What techniques would you recommend people to kind of follow through?
So over the years and through my personal story, I was trying to pick up things and simplify, and understanding that maybe athletes have more time to train, but especially business people or people who work in the corporates have less time to train. And we need to figure out micro interventions, things that you can do on the go, and things that you can do on the side. That maybe you learn a tool, and then once you know to use it efficiently, you can just use it on the go. We created a simple framework we call DNA, detect, neutralize, and act, where we train people to first detect. If you look on military methods, they all have a very high tech for, radars and ability to detect from short distance, long distance, at night, at day. So we have to be able to detect. And if we'll be even more, if you'll dive a little bit into the science, we have 5 senses. Some of us will say we have more than 5, and all their job is to detect. So my vision, I need to detect information. So my hearing, I need to detect information. So all our system eventually build up to detect different information and segregate it to 2 options: safety, secure, or a threat. If it's safety and secure, we just keep on going, nothing happen. And this why sometimes it's more difficult to be happy for a long time, because the system is like, okay, everything is okay, we don't need to do anything. But if it's a threat, the system immediately ringing the bells of the alarm, and now we need to do something. This is what we call fight or flight, the sympathetic activation. Once this happened, if we succeeded to detect it, and there is different ways, because we can detect it through the senses, we can also detect it through the internal senses. We can feel heart rate, we can feel certain pains and ache, or even for this example, heat, like a fever. We can feel those things. And of course, we can hear our own voice with thoughts or emotions that might repeat again and again, that kind of ringing the bells and telling us there is some threat. Taking all of this information, what our mind and body is doing, creating a quick perception. The situation is a threat because of, and there is a story. because of my boss, because of my employees, because of the company, because traffic, because of my boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband. I put a quick story, and the system want to react as fast as possible to get rid of the jet. However, sometimes, and especially in the corporate world, that it's not a really a life and death situation. What we want to add is the neutralize part, where we call it Zen zero. I'm putting myself in a zero space where I don't rush to react. There is certain breathing exercises, there are certain visualizations that we can run. There is certain cognitive ways or exercises to reduce some of the noises and bring us to the zero. We can explain certain emotions and understand different perceptions of the story. And because every story that we create, there's thousands perceptions that we can choose out of. And basically we choose one perception. Once we use any of those exercises, and we also like to measure those things with different technologies. And we know the person succeeded to put himself or herself in this zero state. Now we give ourselves a great opportunity to act much more efficiently. We can build an action plan related to the situation without all the biases of the real or the fake threat that our system detected. For example, someone shouted at us. Our first reaction is or to shout back or to flee and, for the introverts to go away and feel really shame. But if we are able to neutralize, we'll be able to answer in an accommodating, empathetic way that will help us or to solve the problem, or if the other person don't want to solve the problem, at least we didn't pay heavy taxation for someone else getting angry for no reason. Otherwise, their anger cost us. And this what we want to neutralize and put a better action plan as a response to the situation. So if we are doing that, and it sounds like a very long story, and people might ask themselves, how do I do all of that while the boss is now shouting at me? If you practice it a little bit, we saw that people are able to do it very quickly in a matter of seconds. And because you are able to automatize the system, and now your nerve system just immediately going into that block of functionality, and you just run it quickly. And we saw it on athletes that they have ability, in few seconds to move from a wrong decision or wrong execution to flip it and be able to perform good again. We saw it on business people, stock market people that were able to do those quite quickly and able to help themselves on the spot.
So in a way, what you're saying is using the DNA framework, you can help people to reprogram the way they look at situations, they go through emotions or the perceptions coming out of it. And closely aligned with stress is burnout. How important it is for the early detection of burnout, and how do you differentiate between stress and burnout?
I'm sure that all of you know when your phone is working and when your phone is have no battery. Burnout means that battery is good. There are certain symptoms for that. To try and generalize it a little bit, we might fall sick very oftenly, more often than our usual. Cognitively, tasks that used to take us X time, taking us much more time. A simple mail that used to take me 5 minutes, now I'm struggling for 2 hours. I can't find the words. People talking to me, or there's a meeting and I just feel blah, blah, blah. And I can't gather the information properly and organize it and participate. We become very short. Our patient is gone, and every small thing we react way too extreme to the situation. And for other people, they might shut down. Socially, they don't want to see people again. And we always need to compare it to the previous self, because the introverts that anyway don't necessarily like to socialize with too many people is a different situation. But if you like to meet people, you have lots of friends, and suddenly you're hiding at home, this might be another symptom that your system cannot deal or tolerate with what's going on. And so there are different symptoms of having zero battery. We also need to understand that basically we can look on two types of stress. One is acute and one is chronic. In the acute, we can also divide the acute to positive and negative. And when I say positive and negative, is again, how do we perceive the stress or the stressor? The stressor can be anything. The question is, are we able to perceive it as something that will help us perform better? No, or are we perceiving it as a big threat? And we are now in this uncontrolled fight or flight or even freeze. Whatever it is, the next phase will be chronic, which means that I'm carrying with me as different stressors. I'm not letting go of them, and I keep on accumulating, which will be similar to, you open many tabs on your phone or on your computer that they keep on updating. You don't even need them, but they keep on running in the background, and your battery is just running out very fast. And there's no reason, because your phone may be even in your pocket, but batteries keep on going. And this is chronic one to the level that, and this is where we see lots of sleep issue, that while we are sleeping, which is the most important part of the 24 hours to recover, do all the rehab processes. Some people communicate so much stress during sleep time that they might be sleeping, but the recovery processes, the recharging is not happening, or it's to that level that they are not even able to sleep. The system keeps them awake because there's so much arousal and they're carrying so much stress. And then the system is unable to switch off the conscious and shift into the recovery processes. And then they carry it out with them day after day during the nights. And it's just accumulating, which at some point will lead to a burnout because you don't put yourself at any point of time in the charger.
So that's a great explanation of the kind of stressors. And what kind of practices would you recommend for people either to be aware of the stress that they're going through, or some work that they can do by themselves to manage stress?
So one of the tricky things with stress, including myself, with all my training, with all my awareness, many times you won't even notice that you're stressed. Why? Because we moved into a certain hemostasis, certain balance between the mind and the body that got used to this type of functionality. And therefore, for us, it feels like, okay, now we are on zero, but actually we are not. And it's very difficult to recognize it consciously. It might be from a past trauma. It might be from, add-on of things at work. It might be, there is some family situation that we keep on thinking about and keep on anticipating what will happen. So all of those will put us in a state of stress that is very difficult to recognize. This is where, after almost 5 years working with top athletes, I figure out that I need some objectivity, because if I tell them that they are stressed, they may or may not agree with me. At the same time, I may be wrong, thinking that they are stressed or thinking that they are calm, but it's very difficult to recognize what's going on inside. So this is where I moved my practice to use technologies and to help us more objectively see trends of, I would say, subconscious functions. We are able to read the autonomous nerve system. They're telling us if you are on a calm, relaxed, clear state of mind, which is called parasympathetic, where also digestion happens more smoothly and your gut is able to deal with digesting food correctly. And you have the other system, which is called the sympathetic, which is the fight or flight. And nowadays they are even talking that there's one more nerve system, which is separate from the two, which related to the freeze. Those of you that maybe experienced blackout or some intense trauma that you just frozen and you couldn't move. It happened even to me once in a world champion, that I knew what I want to do in my brain, but my legs didn't move according to what I wanted. So all of those things happen automatically in our autonomous nerve system. And this is the main, I would call it Wi-Fi, to generate information mostly from the body to the brain, and in return from the brain to the body. If you are able to detect all of this kind of communication objectively, we are also able to do more objective training to recognize symptoms. And I had lots of business people that they will see it very comfortably, looking really relaxed. But then I see that the meter of the fight or flight is really high. So then it's helping me to say, hey, you see the meter. There is something internally that happened. What is it? Sometimes they will know very quickly, I just came from a very hectic call. Or something happened in the business. We lost some deal or something happened. And sometimes we say, I don't know. I feel okay. And then we need to dig a little bit more to understand. And maybe again, it's something in the past that they have no clue. And now they're just functioning on this stress. And for many people, they just like the stress because it's giving them this, heightened sharpness, and they are able to do many things. So they want to stay in this state without understanding that they are depleting themselves for too long. So technology really helped me like that to identify, keep it objective, and then we can accelerate the training through the different methods.
So what I hear from you is the good news is that there is technology available for people to access, understand what it is. The larger question is it limited only to the athletes? They have access to some of these technologies and techniques, or is it available for commoner like us so that we know what is stressing us and how do we go about addressing those issues?
Both the answers are correct. The technology is available. You'll have two routes. Many people have smartwatches, rings, wristbands. All of that is part of those data collection to understand physiology. I will be honest, and I would say they are great Indian company. Some of them is even Bangalore-based that came up with really great technology. Some of them are more accessible for the masses. Some of them is slightly more expensive. Of course, will be related also to the quality of data collections and the insights. What we also do, we like to measure all of those live and all those gadgets collecting data, and you can see a trend. So in 24 hours, how was I? It's not necessarily great for you for the moment. Now you had a meeting, it not necessarily will give you an accurate measurement where you relaxed or stressed in that meeting. Which for us, when we try to connect between tools and exercises to the data, we have to use the maximum accuracy. And therefore, we are using certain tools, again, open for different performance, general population crowd. I just came back from 3 days conference with neurosurgeons, where we're actually building a program for neurosurgeons and hopefully for other doctors to learn and train themselves how to deal with stress. And we could measure some of the doctors before they did some training operation, during the operation, and after, try to optimize the economy. In this case, it was the economy of physiology, which of course reflecting to the emotions and the decision making and eventually to the overall behavior. We just did a great workshop with a big women organization. Today actually women need to be like a superheroes. They are working full time. They are taking care of kids. They are taking care of the house. They need to be in 3 places simultaneously. So it was important for us also to share that, it's important that they're taking care of themselves. And so we are building I would call it a smart and accessible program for teachers that hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have the whole program in an app that even teachers can, address well-being. So we are trying, to take technology and not only give access to those who have the real capital and trying to make it as accurate so the insights that you are giving you an immediate action points.
Wonderful. And all of this work is carried out by the Bangalore startup called as Behavioral Foresight.
Yes. I have a brilliant team with me that, of course, helping me to take it from teenagers to young adults to adults to the general population and to peak performance.
Wonderful. Mon, we spoke about stress and burnout, the physiological changes that one goes through when they're subjected to stress or burnout. And we'll move to another critical topic, something that is close to your heart as well. You're the chief mental performance coach for many athletes, particularly for the Rajasthan Royals team. From a mental conditioning standpoint, from a mental exercise standpoint, looking back, what are some of those personal traits or habits you believe have been most crucial to the success of the athletes or for the corporate athlete as well?
So there are two layers. One, as much as I am a big believer in training the mental capabilities, we have to accept and respect the technical aspect. If you want to be a high performer, your technical knowledge and your ability to execute the technical part of your performance has to be in the highest level. It doesn't matter if you are an engineer, cybersecurity, HR, you need to take certain management decisions, bank related, stock market, or IPL player in India, cricketer. Your technique, the level of your skill have to be at the highest level for the one simple reason. This is what you are going to rely on. And this is where you're actually building your mental trust. Because if we are looking on the mentality part of performance, I need to trust myself blindly. At the moment, doubts, double thoughts, worries creep into, my performance. This is where things start to go south. This is where lots of insecurities start to play a bigger role. And therefore, as we mentioned earlier, in the detect phase, our system will detect more stress or more threats than it actually should be. If our technical skill is at the highest and we now want to bring it, express it in the right time, at the right moment, this is where the second aspect comes, the connection between strategy or tactics and the mental part. And why am I saying that? Because we can learn everything by the book and technically I can be great. But the junction of decision making, when to do what, when to take a high risk decision, where to take a low risk decision, where to push the envelope a little bit, where to play safe, where to be arrogant, where to be nice. All those, uncertainties that you have in performance will be related to how much are you able to express your technique at the right time, at the right moment. Now moving more purely to the mental aspect, we said first is trust. I need to be able to back myself, understand that I can't trust or be dependent on anyone to back me. The second thing will be, which again, I'm building on top of the trust, it's self-efficacy. And this is something that, Bandura spoke about it, I think somewhere in the 80s or 90s. And for me, it's a big, important thing that if I want to keep on climbing, the ladders of improving performance, the self-efficacy, the ability to be on my edge and still believe that I can manage it is where I'm able to move from a comfort zone to the discomfort and be able to spend time in this discomfort until I settle there and it's becoming my comfort. I will just take a simple example from cricket. Every batsman need to settle. So just coming to the crease and the wicket is very uncomfortable. Doesn't matter how many matches that they play and how good they are. There is initial discomfort. This is why all batsmen speaking about settling. Once they settle, they can start pushing to take a little bit more risks or to find more options that are a little bit less safe. Once they, conquer that, they say, okay, now I'm safe here. Now I'm comfortable here and I can push even more. Of course, understanding cricket and life is to this extent is similar and there's no linearity because things will change around us and suddenly where we already been comfort will become a discomfort. We need to detect that, recognize that and able to neutralize and give us time to settle again. So once we succeed we have this ability to self-efficacy. I would say that the next thing is resilience. Understanding that no progress is linear. And if you look at any successful person from any sports to any business, they all fail. And not just failed, some of them, or even many of them failed miserably. But what they had is this resilience to get hit by this bullet, to stand up again and to keep on going. And there are many more things that, I can speak about what is important in the mental performance. But if I take 3 traits, it will be those: trust, self-efficacy, and resilience. And resilience is not just look strong, to be able to get a hit and keep on going. It's actually the art of letting go. When someone shout at you very badly, when you fail, and you feel really miserable because the whole team or the in sport or the whole team in your business or maybe even the whole company were dependent on you and you fail them, it's a big hit. But if you are able to take the insights, understand, take the learnings, accept that you failed, and then let go of all the negativity, let go of all the baggage that come with the failure, you are building a resilience that it doesn't matter what will happen to you, because now you are not afraid to fail anymore. Jordan is one of the famous athletes that spoke about that he missed more shots than he succeeded. And he used to laugh that he just succeeded more than the others. But if he will, judge himself according to the time he failed, we'll never know who is Michael Jordan. And Federer recently also stated the same thing, that he said, although I won 80% of my matches, I actually won only 54% of the points, which means that almost, it's equal how many points he lost and how many points he won. And only 4%, actually 8%, differentiated between how big of a player he was and be one of another tennis player. So for me, this is a big thing, because we'll all fail and we'll need to be able to detect correctly what happened in this failure, to be honest and raise our hand, it was my mistake because of X, Y, Z. This is my learnings and we are moving forward. And interestingly, last thing, research even showing that if we look on trauma, there is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which means that because of a very intense trauma, this stress been accumulated in my mind and my body, and now I have a disorder with very heavy symptoms that disturbing my functionality in normal life. But there is also PTSD, post-traumatic growth, which means that the same trauma being perceived as an opportunity to grow. And this is exactly the point of resilience, that I'm taking great learnings. And this was my jumping point in my career, my performance, and so on, to perform at my peak.
Now, love the concept, particularly phrase that you mentioned out here, the baggage of failure, letting go of the baggage of failures there. To kind of wrap this up, Mon, one of the stuff that you have been doing is working with a lot of these high performance athletes, particularly in IPL. If you were to share a couple of valuable learnings that you have seen watching some of these top athletes, what would that be?
Taking the 3 mental traits that I spoke about, trust, self-efficacy, and resilience, and be able to crunch all of them into the present moment. Because eventually you will be, especially in a game like cricket, that you have one ball, one shot, which is very different than football or basketball or badminton, that, you can do many mistakes and you are still in the game. Here, every movement of yours been counted, which means that there is much more mental pressure on a single moment. And the successful cricketers have a very unique ability to crunch, the technique, understanding of the game, and bring out your own trust, self-efficacy, and resilience to a single ball. And of course, it's not one ball and they go home. They need to keep on doing it and keep on bringing it again to the present moment and again to the present moment, which is just a unique ability. And is this what differentiates good athletes, good players, that maybe physically they are gifted, maybe intellectually they are gifted, but being able to crunch all of it to a present moment, this is the mental gift, which, I experienced with some of them and just kind of left me, oh, wow, how he did it again and again and again and again. And I know, that maybe they have injury. I know that maybe they couldn't sleep properly. I know that maybe they are sick. there is so many excuses and so many reasons behind the scene that when you watch a game, you expect, if he's playing, he need to be at his best. How could he not play at his best? But there is so many background noise, especially on, the captains of the teams, that you need to be able to block all of that and crunch all you have to moment by moment.
And this stems from a lot of practice behind the scenes as well.
Of course. It's lots of, I would say, smart practice. I saw lots of players practicing really hard, but not necessarily smart or efficient, without analyzing what actually the pain points for them in all the levels, technical, tactical, mental, and even physical, to understand what they need to actually train. But this is again all the sports science that I'm sure that John also, he's the master on that, and he probably shared very good insights about how you curate the whole ecosystem behind them, trying to support them. And eventually, especially in events like IPL, it's like a war zone. When you go out there, there's no excuses, there are no stories. You cannot, nothing will be justified. You need to go out there and do your job.
Great. Mon, we are having some lovely conversation. I want to kind of keep continuing at it. These are some real golden nuggets. Okay, here we are with Mon and the power of 3 round. The first of the power of 3 round question, Mon, coming to you is 3 micro experiments that you can recommend which will help to enhance mental strength.
The first one is go as far as you can where there's no one around you and experience yourself with yourself. Eventually, to improve mental health performance or mental performance, it's about you winning yourself. The noises is only internal. I did it through Vipassana, which it's a practice that I really appreciate, and I did several times. But there are many other ways to do it. But if you want to improve your mental health, this will be the first answer. The second answer is to do exactly the opposite. Is to put yourself in the most inconvenient, discomfort situations where you dislike and prove to yourself that you can manage. To be monk in the mountains, it's slightly easier, but put yourself in the situation where you try to avoid, you don't want to be. And the third one, smile. I grew up as a very angry child. I used to almost enjoy fighting, but it's very taxing and very expensive. I learned the art of smiling, which is another technique of neutralizing. If you just smile to the situation, you already gave yourself another opportunity to perceive the situation differently. A very non-yoga teacher said that, the person that rushing behind you in the roads and honking and overtaking very violently, and you get pissed off and you try to teach him a lesson and you get really irritated, maybe carry his pregnant wife to the hospital and she's about to, abort. So maybe you want to smile and be nice to him and let him overtake you so he can help his wife. So this will be the 3 things.
Great. Good start, Mon. Mon, if you were to give 3 advice to your future self, what would those 3 advice be?
When you are getting older, you tend to be more safe. The first advice, keep on pushing the envelope. I want to keep the adventure self of me and to find more uncertainties and, conquer them. And I would say maybe less physically that I used to do in rock climbing and oil line, slack line, and maybe more mentally in different parts of my life. The second advice, remember, I need to walk the talk. I have no excuses. And whatever, I tell others, I need to be the first one to execute and to practice. And I will admit that sometimes I also fail. And when I fail, I need to raise my head. And, especially to the people close to me, I need to say, sorry, my mistake. And the third one, open my heart. The world now is very shaky. There's more opportunities to hate people, to find reasons to fight, but this not necessarily will bring solutions. I need to spread a love in a way of respect, in a way of being able to be stable and a lighthouse for myself and for others. It's not necessarily the hippie love, even facing, lots of discomforts that is beyond my control.
What a beautiful thought there, Mon. Mon, if you were to give 3 book or podcast recommendations, what do those 3 be?
The first book, I would recommend The Rise of the Superman. The Rise of the Superman is about 2 scientists that wanted practically to explore the flow state of mind. And the whole book is them interviewing extreme athletes, which is very fascinating. And you understand this moment of decision that you have no choice. You have only one choice, or you survive or you survive. Because when you're an extreme athlete or special forces, the choices of comforts are not there. You need to survive, and more than survive, you need to thrive. Then how the brain alter itself to do that. The second book is a book that, took me a little bit off guard. And then I figure out that, it's kind of my life story, The Surrender Experience or The Surrender Experiment. I get confused, but it was a normal person that studied economics or the mainstream, and this noise in his head was unbearable, and he left everything and did, what I suggested first, to go away from the world, bought a van and just left civilization. And his book is not about preaching what is right, what is wrong. It's about his personal exploration. And this is where I appreciate it the most. And he's doing lots of trial and error with life. He's, very experimental. Some of those things working well, some of them less. Some of the mistakes is actually leading him to the new great insight. And eventually he ending up with a huge company with a huge facility for spirituality. So this whole journey of letting go and just staying tuned to yourself and constantly, I will put my framework, detect, neutralize, and act upon the situation is a whole book about. The third one, I will try to go with a podcast that maybe lots of you are familiar, but I really like Huberman podcast because of the idea that he's able to bring day-to-day challenges with a very deep science, which I think today with the unlimited information in all the social medias and, in all the internet, that you don't know what is right, what is wrong, to whom should I listen or not listen. Having someone that actually went and measure things, tested them, the articles, the research that he's using, they are always validated, and he's giving eventually a practical, simple solutions that you can do for every day. It's something that, I really appreciate, and we're also learning a lot from him.
Wonderful, great recommendations out there. The last of the part of 3 round question for you, Mon. 3 personal transformations that you have experienced after making India your home.
The first one, I will go with something very personal that in a very young age, around the age of 10, I faced some kind of emotional trauma for my peer friends. When I've been rejected socially, which was, very painful, didn't help with my anger, my natural anger reactions. But it's also taught me that eventually I need to be able to deal with the world by myself. I need to trust myself and keep on going. And I need to take several, big decisions for this age, which, I could take, and I could see the trajectory of that later on in my professional career as an athlete. The second one, which connected to the first one, the military decision, which, I built my whole personality, my whole identity around I'm an athlete. And I'm going to be an Olympic athlete, and to be able to burst it in less than a week after 12 years, and the first 12 years of my life almost, and to go to something that I have no clue. I don't know how the training will be. Will I even finish the training course and I will be an operator? There's a chance of 50% that I will not even finish the course. And then I have no clue where they will post me in the military. compared to, the non-fact that, I'm a fencer and this is what I do was a very transformational because again, one, I needed to back myself and trust that what I do is correct. And the second, very quickly, I needed to develop a new personality. And it was interesting because military training is about breaking your personality because they want to rebuild it in the ways they want it to function. So it was, very disoriented several months of, who am I? What am I doing? Why am I exhausting myself while I could be a professional athlete? But I'm not a professional athlete anymore. So, and eventually it was very transformational because I could see myself not just as a social creature, but also a leader. And I needed to lead, operations in the battlefield. And I would say the third one was, you gave me only three. I had few more, but I will connect a death of a very close friend of mine from my military unit and a roommate, a flatmate in my university days that led me to shift all my knowledge base from the Western psychology and shift lots of my thoughts into the Eastern philosophies, psychologies, practices, which led me dive into Vipassana and take the 10 days course. Otherwise, I will never do something like that, which transformed me. And, I lost all or most of my anger. Nowadays, I know to use my anger when I need it as a tool and not something that's controlling me. But more than that, it's opened up my whole mind-body connection, understanding through experience, that eventually also led me to India.
Thank you. Thanks, Mon, for being vulnerable. I know I put you on a spot, but really appreciate you sharing these personal transformation examples. You have been at the helm of lot of technology changes, at the helm of lot of human mental changes that is happening. What do you see as the emerging technology that will shape the future over the next few years, which has the biggest impact on mental health?
I really believe that, I will call it accuracy. The accuracy and the accessibility of being able to measure yourself, your state of mind, and able to improve yourself on a daily basis. Coming back from the neurosurgeon conference, I learned about new technologies that can help us map the brain, understand and new ways of connections that are happening in the brain. As till now, we saw the brain as anatomical functions, but recently I would say the last decade, there have been a huge project and they figure out that it's not anatomical regions, it's the connectivity between the different parts of the brain. So we are able to see which networks are overworking, working too less, working correctly, and be able to help you with a much more accurate training for what you are aiming. Then I think, of course, also, the AI, the LLM were able to crunch lots of data in a very short time, enable a very quick insight for you now. If before that we need to measure, then we needed to write a research, then someone needed to read the research, then they needed to try and practice that. Might take, sometimes 20 years, in a funny way, the world of yoga, meditation came to the West only after the 2000, which, for Indians, it was, you learn it in, elementary school. You know it from your family and it's part of the culture. So just imagine that, we were living in some part of the world that although all the knowledge exists, we have no clue about it. But today with the press of a button, not just that I can know about it, I can also test myself and get a reference or an immediate action plan, how to address what I need to address will be the next thing. And this is some of the things that we are trying to work for teachers and hopefully for other professionals that they will have it with them.
So something to definitely look out for in terms of high performance and building the mental muscle. Great having you on this episode of Inspire Someone today. Like always, we wrap up this conversation with your Inspire Someone Today message to all of our listeners? This show is all about creating ripples of inspiration. What's your Inspire Someone Today message to all the listeners?
Enjoy looking inside. When we used to look on the mirror or nowadays on the phone selfies and we see the outside. But if you will take a moment to look on the inside and you will decide to beautify the inside of you, two things will happen. And this is scientifically proven. Externally, you will become more beautiful and you will radiate, these energies, those frequencies that nowadays we are able to measure, and you will become like a lighthouse. That people admire you. They want to be like you, not because of your external look, because the inside of you is holding a very unique and beautiful treasure. So don't be afraid and look inside.
Wonderful. On that note, on that wonderful message, if you want to attract people, start looking inside. Start working on yourself, look inside, and it will emerge outside automatically. Mon, thank you so much. This has been one heck of a conversation. This is just not concepts, but this is science-backed concepts. Thank you for sharing all of those insights. I'm looking forward to having more conversations with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Inspire Someone Today. This is Srikanth, your host, signing off. Until next time, continue to carry the ripples of inspiration. Stay inspired, keep spreading the light.